Hello everyone, welcome to the Red Men TV. It is the Deep Dive Q&A. I'm Chris Pajak. That man there is Josh Williams. And this is all about Trent Alexander-Arnold, because we put the Deep Dive Q&A out. Trent Alexander-Arnold news broke. And pretty much 90% of the questions were around Trent. If you want a non-Trent Alexander-Arnold deep dive, then you can get involved over on Red Men Plus. We'll stream that straight after this show. You can get involved as well. We're doing a half-price yearly subscription at captain level by using the code DEEP, DEEP, when you sign up. So yeah, get half price off your subscription for a full year of Red Men Plus and get the extra deep dive show every single week along with everything else that we do. We're going to get straight into it. I'm going to start with a heavy question around Trent Alexander-Arnold from our mate Callum. Cal Webby owns the Power app. If you're onto it at all, it's a superb app. I've done it once this week and he's absolutely ruined me. I can barely walk. But if you're looking to get fit, get on Power. It's a fantastic thing going by a Scouser, which is absolutely brilliant. So we'll get into it then. Callum Webb, how do we think Trent's move will go down inside the ground?
Not well, is my expectation of it. Yeah, I don't think it'll be well received. I don't think it'll be a particularly understanding crowd, personally. I was listening to TalkSport on the way here, actually, and Danny Murphy was on, and he seemed to think the complete opposite. And I was listening thinking, mate, like, are you sure about this? Like, he was saying like he doesn't think anyone will... He'd like to think he'll get clapped or something, or I can't remember exactly what he said, but I personally can't really see it. And I do think there's a question of, if by the time he's back from this injury, Liverpool have the league sewn up,
yeah,
I do genuinely think there's probably a question of like, do you actually play him or not?
This got brought up on our show yesterday, actually, and it was framed in a slightly different way, so I've got kind of two answers for it. I think for me, right, and apologies for repeating myself from what I said yesterday, but if he was at the, and it was framed like, if he's clapping the cop on the last day of the season, would you clap back? And I said, yeah, I would, because I said this yesterday, but like, my dad took me to the game. He kind of taught me how to be a Liverpool fan and how he thinks that football should be sort of watched and enjoyed and supported and stuff. And for me, it's very much like, no matter what, you try and clap everything. You know what I mean? It's very like, if someone makes a bad pass, but it's the right idea, you don't go, oh, that's fucking shit. You go, unlucky lad, right idea. Type of thing. And that's how I was brought up as a supporter. So if Trent Alexander-Arnold is walking over to the cop and I'm stood in the cop on the last day of the season and he's clapping, I will clap back. That's who I am. It's who I am as a supporter. Now I get that not everybody will think like that. There'll be loads of people, by the way, who were brought up in exactly the same way who just won't, because they can't forgive him. And I understand that and totally get it. It's just not me, and I'm not going to lie to anyone and tell you I'm going to do different when I won't.
Yeah.
But when you frame it like sort of this question here, around Cal's question of how's it going to go down on the ground, mate, we've seen games this season we've been to together where when Trent has played a bad pass, people are calling him all kinds in the ground already, prior to this happening. So I don't think this is going to go down particularly well at all, but I do think it's going to be a split. I do think it may be sort of 70, 80% complete narc at him, and maybe 30-20 where people are going a bit, not like supportive, more ambivalent than anything else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think for me, if he's doing that, if he's clapping the cop, I think I would clap back as well. Especially, you know, if he's doing it last game of the season when you do the little lap of Anfield and everything, and we've won the Premier League and all that sort of thing. I think the problem would be between now and then, he would have to get minutes on the pitch and he would have to probably warm up at some point in front of the crowd. I think that would be where you're playing with fire. Like I went to Spurs away in the Carabao Cup semi-final, I think it was. And
you picked a good one. We lost 1-0, didn't we?
Yeah, but that was his first appearance since the Man United game, which was obviously really bad. Awful. So it comes around to Spurs. I think Trent starts on the bench, and he's just warming up. And some of the things that were getting said from the lads behind me, I just couldn't disagree more with. To be honest, really strong stuff when he's just warming up, and he had a bad off game, really bad, like against Man United, but just screaming like vermin and things like that at him, and it's just warming up, mate. You know what I mean? And when he come on, he was really good. He applied himself. You could tell he had a word with the manager, and Arne Slot had pointed out the execution wasn't good enough against Man United. He needs to be better than that, whether you're staying or going. And he delivered a little bit more than all that. But since then, obviously, if it's now kind of official, he's defo going. I assume that would be stronger.
Oh yeah.
And this was away, so yeah, I would have worries for him in Anfield when he makes that first comeback. If he's warming up, or if he makes a stray pass, or someone beats him 1v1 or something, I do think it could get spiky. But going back to the original point, I agree with you. I based on what I've seen in the past like 24 hours, the reaction and things like that, the gate I seem to be far more understanding than the typical than the average fan. Based on what I've seen so far, I wouldn't have known that initially, but based on the reactions, I've since realised, right, I don't feel as strongly about this as some other people then.
Yeah, and I think that's understandable, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's just one of them. And I think it's one of them delicate situations as well, where to an extent, no one is wrong. You can feel you feel how you feel towards this situation. I think obviously it's wrong to start going into abuse and things like that personally, but beyond that, if you hate, if you can't forgive them or whatever, I get it. I get everyone's side on this sort of thing.
You've just reminded me while we were speaking about Gini Wijnaldum's quotes when he left Liverpool. I don't know if you remember these. So Wijnaldum said, "When it went bad, I was the player who they blamed, that I wanted to leave. Every day in training, in the games, I gave everything I had to bring it to a good end, because during the years, Liverpool meant so much to me because of the way the fans in the stadium were treating me." And this is where it gets interesting. My feeling was that the fans in the stadium and the fans on social media were two different kinds. The fans in the stadium always supported me. Even when they came back after the COVID lockout, already knowing that I was going to leave, they still supported me. And in the end, they gave me a great farewell. On social media, if we lost, I was the one who got the blame. There was moments I was like, wow, if I only knew what I was doing to stay fit and play every game. Now that's interesting, because obviously it's a football player who felt at the time that there was a difference between the fans in the stadium and the fans outside the stadium. Where I think this differs is I think there are a lot of fans who go the game who feel exactly like what we've seen on social media over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, I think some of the... I don't disagree with that, by the way. I think Wijnaldum's pretty much on point there from what I see usually. But I've seen some stuff from people who I know who go to the game and who live in Liverpool and all that, and they also feel just really strongly about it and stuff. And it's just one of them, innit? It's difficult to gauge how exactly everyone's going to feel, but generally speaking, the kind of Liverpool way, or whatever you want to call it, there is an expectation that if you come through the ranks and you're Scouse, you stay. There just is. And whether that's right or wrong, it's just the way it is. It's different to other clubs, I assume. But if you're from Liverpool and you're a boyhood fan of the club and the club wants you, you're supposed to stay. That's just the way it goes. I don't necessarily know if that's entirely fair, depending on the individual. But it's the expectation, and to some people, if you go against that, you're breaking the rules. You're going against tradition. You're betraying the city.
It's one thing, isn't it? When I think for me anyway, it's one thing when you are, let's say you're a Liverpool fan for whatever it's worth, in this situation, and you are playing in a Liverpool side that's absolutely crap, and you can't win things, to then move because you want to focus on your career and win trophies and all that type of stuff, is much easier to take as a fan than when you consider Liverpool to be competing for the biggest honours, and that you're competing for the same trophies as a Real Madrid that's different for me. If he's, we're not crap. We're hopefully about to win the Premier League.
Yeah.
We were one of the best sides in Europe until we were out. It's different, isn't it?
The only thing I'd say on that, I think there's different ways of looking at that one. I think, like, you could argue, say for example, Gerrard. You could argue that when Gerrard left, he basically, if you want this perspective, you could argue he would have been jumping from a sinking ship rather than going down with his ship, or at least helping it to stay afloat type thing. Whereas Trent, you could argue, would be leaving in a situation where Liverpool are going to be fine regardless. Reminds me of Zubamendi last year. One of the reasons we're led to believe Zubamendi didn't want to leave Sociedad is because, number one, it wasn't planned for. The club didn't really expect it, didn't see it coming. And number two, they just lost Mikel Merino to Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I think the Normand to Atletico Madrid, so a bit of a spine. And I think he knew, if I also go, that I'm going to leave the club in a bad spot here. So there's different ways of looking at it. Like, with Trent, I prefer him to leave when Liverpool are flying, because we'll be sound without him. We don't need him. We needed Gerrard. Do you know what I mean? We really needed him.
Okay, that's a rational
like the city on his shoulders.
Charlotte Weir, I'll forgive you for getting my name wrong, but we'll got the super chat regardless. It's Chris, by the way. That frustrates me, Steve. I'm in the cop every week. I'm pissed at Trent. Some of us in the ground are generally pissed. It's because it's a free. I get it, and I think I said, I totally, like, there will be people in the ground that will be pissed off, and I understand that, honestly, Charlotte, I do. And for me, I don't get the free thing. Do you?
No, a lot of people are touching on this. One of the main things, I have a lot of sympathy with the free thing, right? Because I think if Trent has this dream of Real Madrid and he wants to play there, he wants to play in Spain and experience whatever, how else is he going to get there? Liverpool would not sell him. Liverpool are never going to sell him. It's just not going to happen. So he has to go about it this way, whereby it's a free transfer. And if he did somehow find a way for it, imagine the stick Liverpool, mainly FSG, would get for selling Trent. It would make the club look weaker if we sold him. The fact that we're losing him on a free it comes down to perspective again. That could be viewed as a position of, like, almost power in a weird sort of way, because we wouldn't have sold him otherwise. It's out of our hands, if you like. We've tried to keep him and stuff. Where like, going back to these people saying, like, we could have negotiated like a release clause like McAllister did. Nah, Liverpool don't do release clauses. We took that stance with Emre Can when he wanted like a little release clause in case he could get a higher move or something. No, Liverpool, you need to recognise your position in the food chain. Liverpool is seriously high in the food chain, as in compete with the Champions League every season. You don't give players release clauses, and you don't do it for the sake of, I don't know, 20 million or whatever, or 30, whatever Brighton got from McAllister or something like that.
Absolutely. Charlotte apologised. She says, "Oh my God, sorry, Chris. I was listening, not looking." You're welcome, Charlotte. It's fine. We'll move on then. That was a heavy question from Cal to get us started.
Yeah.
Kieran Emery was done when Madrid offered us 20 million. What do you think? For me, I think it was done before that.
I agree.
But yeah, I think that's when everyone knew for the first point that this was done for Real Madrid, because there is absolutely no way that they're offering £20 million if they don't know for a fact that it is getting sorted.
Yeah. I think
partly because that's what clubs do now. Clubs will only make the bid when they know the player's coming. But I do think this goes back a lot longer than just January.
Yeah, I agree. I think it goes well beyond that. I think the best players, if you're a proper generational player or whatever, I think they map out their careers. And I think Trent has probably had this in mind for a while now.
Maybe when he did the 4-year contract instead of 5.
Yeah. Well, going back to that, yeah, like, they kind of almost choose the direction of travel, really. Haaland has done similar. I think Mino Raiola's clients tend to be pretty good at this, except Pogba, who made the mistake of going back to Man United. But the really sensible like for example, a few years ago, Wilfred Zaha signed, I think it was a 5-year extension or something, and in the following window, tried to go to Arsenal, and Palace were just like, "What do you mean, mate? Like, we're asking for this amount for you because you've just signed an extension." Like, there's obviously a misunderstanding from Zaha's part or the agents or whatever. They've tied him down. He doesn't even want to be tied down. He just wants more dough or something, probably. So the best, the most switched on footballers / agents or whatever plan that sort of thing, and I think it's probably been planned for Trent to run out of contract aged 26 when he couldn't be more experienced, where he's prime. And at that point, maybe he's probably thought, I'd like to experience Real Madrid or Barcelona, I would assume. But that's probably been in the works for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Elgin's Diner. If we lose Mo and Trent, how does Liverpool cope with the loss of creativity? It's a good question, isn't it?
Mo and Trent?
In that hypothetical world, it actually isn't that far away.
Yeah.
It's definitely a possibility that exists in the very near future.
Yeah. Pray is probably the answer. Put your hope in prayer. I don't know. I think with Trent, actually, it's a bit weird because I know what we associate him with. We associate him with being a playmaker, you know, super creative from right back and all that sort of thing, and he is. But that's almost not the main thing you lose with Trent. I think you lose the ball progression from deep just as much. You know, the ability to get into the final third. Like, we've seen a few examples of that, like Newcastle funny enough, Newcastle at St James's when Kwanzaa plays, and Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final. These are games where, like, when Liverpool don't have that cheat code of Trent, they struggle to really pin opponents back because they can't get that high up, almost. Trent has always been really progressive. The ability to play the ball forwards is amazing. I think under Slot, for me, he doesn't create that much compared to previous iterations of himself. And I had a look before, actually. If we look at shot creating actions on FBref, which is a bit of a fiddly metric, to be honest, but it's basically the two actions that lead up to the creation of the shot, which sounds a bit nuts, but bear with me. I think there's 4 Liverpool players this season in the Premier League that are above Trent for that metric. One of them, for example, was Alexis McAllister. People probably wouldn't have guessed that sort of thing. I think one of them might have been Szoboszlai. One of them was Salah. Harvey Elliott was in there, but Harvey Elliott hasn't played enough minutes. And I think there was one more. And Andy Robertson wasn't that far behind Trent. So, as an actual, like, chance creator for Liverpool, I don't think we can miss that much, generally speaking, from week to week. I think we can miss moments where he just grabs the game without question, because he's amazing at doing that. Salah would obviously be more of a miss creation-wise, because everything goes through him. The team is literally set up to unlock Salah, essentially. 44 goals and assists, I think it is, this season. So if you lose him, you lose a ton of points. If you think of the points he's won this season, the points he's responsible for, that's a lot. Like, if you lose the parents together, all the best.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly difficult. Just to highlight some of the stuff that you were talking about there, obviously, in terms of progressive passes, Trent is 60 ahead of the next best player in the squad so far. In all comps, he's had 250 progressive passes. Alexis McAllister, 190. In terms of assists, he's way behind, but he is second in terms of the squad in all comps. Salah obviously 22 assists in all comps. Trent 7. Then there's a glut of players, basically Curtis, Gakpo, Szoboszlai, Nunes, all on 6 or 5. So I totally understand that point, and it brings us nicely into the next questions, really, and these are all around the same thing, so I'll just read a few of them quickly. Randy Watson, 1981. Do you think we'll be more solid defensively without Trent? AJTH 8589. Is it possible we would actually be even better side tactically without Trent? Ryan Merv. Do you think we should go for a more conventional right back now, and how does this impact team shape? So if we sort of tackle all three of these, and we'll also think about Elgin's, Diners, Mo and Trent one at the same time, I suppose. I think the thing for me is, I take your point about the progressive passes thing, but I always think it's a bit of a crutch at times, having Trent. And in some ways, yes, he's absolutely perfect for that sort of ball that comes out over the top or releases Mo or whatever. But I think the team struggles more because they're used to playing with Trent. I think you tactically work a different way through the thirds of the pitch when you don't have Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I think that's where it comes for me, is that tactically will be very different. I think we'll build up completely differently because you get rid of your crutch and you have to learn to walk on your own, essentially. So I think it's really interesting. I do think we're going to see more of a conventional fullback. I think one of the things that Slot maybe this season has showcased is an unwillingness to let Trent go all the way down into these areas of the field, because I don't think Slot thinks he's good enough to do that as well.
Yeah.
And I think with someone like a Bradley, I think it's fair to say from the eyeball test that Bradley does, when he plays, get up and down that wing much more than Trent. And that's because the engine that Conor Bradley has got. And I think that's where we'll see a difference in our fullbacks. I don't know whether you agree or disagree.
Yeah, no, I think I mostly agree, to be honest. I think the defensive point is a good one. Because what you will lose on the ball, you will gain some of it back off the ball, I think. I think I've always said Trent is a bad defender. I've always said that. I'm not just saying it now. A lot of people will finally realise it now, because he's not necessarily asked to defend anymore. If he's going to Real Madrid, I don't think he's a very good defender. So if you can get someone in who's marginally better, or a little bit more focused, a little bit more interested in applying himself on a defensive end, you will shave a little bit off your attack, but gain it on the defensive end, if you get what I mean. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where Liverpool make up for it. I don't think you go and sign a Wan-Bissaka though.
No.
You know, I've seen there's this obsession at the moment with duels. I keep getting messages about duels, mate. Like buying players who are going to win duels. Forget duels. Just ignore that. With Liverpool, just need to be...
Could you say duels anymore?
It's doing me head in, though, mate. It really is. You should see me mentions. You don't buy players to win duels. You just don't. You buy players to win points and win matches and things like that.
How you really feel, Josh?
Yeah, the duel stuff just kind of comes with it. So don't go and buy someone who's going to win loads of duels. Don't go and buy someone who's going to do...
So you want a right back who's a non-duel specialist?
No. I don't want... you just go and buy it. Just go and buy a very good right back. That's as simple as that. Most of them, regardless, will be better than Trent defensively, because it's hard not to be, if I'm totally honest. So that's probably how I'd navigate. In terms of how it changed the team tactically, I do think Slot is... I think Liverpool have known this is going to happen for a while. And I think when Slot first comes in, I think Slot arguably knows it's on its way. And I think Slot since has made accommodations to ensure that he's not that reliant on Trent versus Jurgen. And I think that's played out. I think Liverpool now progress the ball predominantly through the middle of the park. Mo Salah is far more of a creator, with a little bit of that taken off Trent's shoulders, I think. So I don't think you're as reliant on him. And I think if you go back to what I always touch on, this thing with points, think of players in terms of how many points they deliver for you over the course of the season. I don't think Trent is in the same stratosphere as Mo Salah or Van Dijk, personally. I think if you take Trent out and put Bradley in, Liverpool's points total drops, but I don't think it drops astronomically. I don't think you go from title winners to top four or anything like that. Like it's not that dramatic. And you know, some of the links that we've had with replacements and stuff like that, like for example, the Frimpong link, that would have an impact on your tactics. I don't know, you would have to shift things about there, because you can't use Frimpong the way Slot has used Trent this season. I just don't think you can. So in that situation, yes, you don't necessarily tear up the blueprint, but you do adjust things without question, because he's a different kind of player. It's exciting, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is, and I think it's really interesting because I take your point and I agree with it. And when you think of like Liverpool in 21-22, when all comps, he had 18 assists, he added a lot of points that season to Liverpool's points total. Or he added into the cup competitions or whatever. This season, I don't think he's added anywhere near as many points. You might be talking a net positive of somewhere between 3 and 6 points because of the stuff on the defensive side of the things. I think Conor Bradley can absolutely achieve that if he can stay fit, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the big question mark I think every Liverpool fan has right now around Conor Bradley, isn't it? So, do you need someone who is going to be exactly the same type of player as Trent Alexander-Arnold? Well, it doesn't exist. So go out there, find a right back that's very, very good, delivers more points defensively, and can move the needle a touch in an attacking sense as well. And I think you're in a good position. If you're ranking the 3 players for me who were out of contract in the summer, it was always Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah, and then for me, Trent Alexander-Arnold last. I've said this all season long. I don't think Liverpool, with their current ownership and the model with which Liverpool are ran, should be paying 300 plus grand a week for a right back. Because I don't think 300 plus grand a week for a right back or whatever it is, Trent can't deliver what that money needs.
In terms of points.
In terms of points, yeah. He just can't.
Exactly.
That man can. That man can.
Yeah.
And that man can. That is forward money for me and always has been. Now, look, if we were owned by Saudi Arabian princes and we didn't have a model and whatever, pay whoever, but we are owned by FSG and their model doesn't fit with Trent earning that much money, and it never has done for me.
A lot of clubs wouldn't pay a right back that. You know, you're talking about a select few clubs that would go to that level for a right back. And to be honest, I think Liverpool might have gone there anyway, or if not right there, they would have gone close. I don't think this is a money thing. I really don't think this is a money thing. I think Trent has an interest in a new challenge in a different country, different lifestyle. He's won everything in England, won the Premier League, won the Champions League, everything with his boyhood club. His boyhood club are in a good spot. He's still got years left on the clock. And I think he wants to change. I don't think it's about money, personally. I really don't. I think he's he's quite clearly a very ambitious kid. Views himself as a superstar, and rightly so. He's unbelievable on the ball. He's the best right back I've ever seen on the ball. I think most people would agree with that as well. You got the likes of Dani Alves, you got the likes of Cafu and that, but they were different kind of right backs for me. Trent is Hollywood, absolute Hollywood, and the absolute Hollywood club is Real Madrid. So I don't think it's a money thing.
Okay. So a couple more. Andreas Anderson says, and it's a similar vein actually, if Trent does in fact leave, do you think Slot will go for more traditional fullback as his replacement? I think we've touched on that already.
In a way, he has no choice.
Yeah, there isn't anyone else out there.
No.
And Michelle says, after successfully ignoring it all season, I think we have to look at the right back situation. We won't find another Trent. He's a unicorn. So what should his profile look like? Should he be similar or different to Bradley, young and more experienced? So young and or more experienced than Bradley. For me, it has to be more experienced. You know, I think Connor's a fantastic footballer right now. But his injury issues do worry me. I would be going for that 24 to 26, 23 to 26-year-old right back personally, who's got that experience, who can add something to the team straight away, doesn't have fitness worries. What do you think?
So would I. But I spent last night looking at the right back market, and it's bad. It's not great. Like the left back market's well better. Right backs, yeah. I think number one, you're not finding another Trent. That's obvious. You don't replace Trent necessarily. You just buy a new right back. That was always my thinking with it. And ideally, don't overthink it. Just go and buy the best right back you can, really. But the best right back that you can. Do you want names?
Yeah, I want names. Yeah, give me names.
Well, I don't know how people will take this. I don't know how realistic this is, but the best fit probably is Pedro Porro at Spurs. Beyond that, There's really not a lot at all. And I think what I picked up on, I was very much in the camp of like, I've spoke about Diaz and Gakpo, haven't I? And I've said like, I like the way Diaz and Gakpo share the minutes. They're both about the same level, you know, roughly what you're getting from the pair of them, and they're competing for the same spot. I really like Bradley, and if you was to say to me next season, Bradley will start 38 out of 38, I'd be like, sound. But I don't think he will. I don't think he can, physically. So my approach has always been in my head, buy another Bradley and have two of them competing for the spot like you do with Gakpo and Diaz. Mm-hmm. So I've had that player in my head, and I've been thinking like, you know, between 22, 26, something like that. But looking last night, I am now a little bit more concerned that we might have to just accept the project. Someone who's a little bit younger. Maybe not, you know, but like, put it this way, originally, like yesterday, no, not yesterday, day before, the links to Frimpong concerned me a little bit because I don't really think he's a fullback. He's
a wing back at best, would you say, or?
Yeah, at best. Like a lot of the time, he's kind of used here, but Leverkusen where Salah's used. He's just a proper outlet, always ahead of the ball. He's absolutely rapid and things like that, but he's very, very small. He's not like he's about as defensively good as Trent. Mm-hmm. So I've had it in my head, he's not really a fullback. But after looking at the market yesterday, I am now more on board with Frimpong, simply because of the lack of alternatives to him. So I've just said before, forget about replacing Trent necessarily. You just go and buy the best player you can. So that, because if you picture the needles like that, right? The needles like that, you've lost Trent, so the needle goes like that. You need to get someone in who moves it back in that direction. So buy the best player that you can. Frimpong would move it more in that direction than, I don't know, just one of the kids that we're linked to who's 19 or something and might be good in 5 years. So,
what about a lot of people in the comments talking about Livramento?
Yeah,
it'd be tough to get him out of Newcastle, like, but
yeah, it would be tough to get him out. Yeah, he's got a contract for another 3 years. But I'm a fan of him. He's really good. He's very two-footed, physical, good at getting up and down the line. I think his availability is decent as well, apart from that season where he had, I think, an ACL. But yeah, good player. I just don't know how realistic that is. And even Pedro Porro, you know what Spurs are like, with absolutely taking you the cleaners if you got an interest in any of their players, and he's got another 3 years on his deal as well, Porro. So I can't really see that one happening. But the players, like, I can absolutely see why Real Madrid have gone for Trent. Hakimi's another one. You're not getting him out of PSG, and I think he's getting on now as well. I think he's
excellent against those.
I think he's a bit older now, though. I think he's like 27 or something like that. But yeah, the market is not great. And the last time I said this was when we sold Fabinho, and we needed a 6. And I looked at the market, and I remember saying exactly this. And we signed Endo, and at the time no one had heard of him. So, yeah, needs to be seen.
But Liverpool have known that this is coming for a long time, I think, and that probably puts them ahead of the curve in terms of what they're looking for. At least they'll have known early what the market was potentially looking like and stuff like that, I suppose. So hopefully they must have a bit of a plan. We'll move on then. Jack Lewis, 99. Heavy hitting question. Is Trent a Liverpool legend if he leaves?
Oh, God. What is a Liverpool legend, really? I mean, we had a Legends game the other day. 95% of the players on the pitch aren't legends. So, it depends, completely subjective, what you determine a legend to be. I think if he leaves, I would probably lean towards no. But he'd play in a Legends game, like, I mean, if that stands as a legend, yes. But a legend, no. What do you think?
You can't, like, a legend to me is, and it's more than this, but as in numbers, you're looking at a Mount Rushmore of Liverpool.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
And Shankly's on the Mount Rushmore. Kenny Dalglish is on the Mount Rushmore. Stevie's on the Mount Rushmore.
I'd say Carragher's on it.
He doesn't make it. He doesn't. Now it's more than 4. I think you can,
of course.
You can expand that to Bob Paisley and everything else, and John Barnes. Even there are lots of players. Does he make whatever that Mount Rushmore is? No, he doesn't.
No,
and that's quite a simple one for me. Will I take away? Will it taint what he's done for Liverpool? For me, yeah, it will taint it a little bit. I've got no bones about saying that, but it doesn't take away that he was part of the best side that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
he was one of the best players in the best sides that I've ever seen, and he gave me some of the best days out in my life. That'll never go. How I feel about him post it will change. And I think the other part, which is quite interesting about the legends stuff, is it really depends what happens after Liverpool for him. And because, look, a lot of people will be watching this who are younger than me, and a lot will be older than me. So there's going to be different opinions on all of this stuff. But Fernando Torres turns up at a Legend game a couple of years ago, I believe, and got a good welcome. If you would have ever thought when he left the club that was a possibility, the answer was nobody thought that was a possibility when he left the football club, because he went to Chelsea. And yet somehow, because his career was shit, basically, after leaving us, it was okay. If he'd have gone and won league title after league title and teared up the league and scored massive goals against us and knocked us out of European competitions, he's never getting invited back.
Yeah.
He's not. So if Trent goes and is shit at Real Madrid, goes bust, somewhere else shite, then you might actually, people might go, Sam, come back, lad.
Yeah.
Although I don't think they will, I'm just sort of playing.
Bit like Coutinho, maybe.
Well, yeah. No one's asked about Coutinho because he was shit after us.
Yeah. And we were better without him because we invested the money, properly. So I agree with you. I haven't got too much to add there to that.
We'll move on then.
Go on.
Just talk about, this one's a mad one, by the way. Takunda Katie. Just talk about it. I think if Trent leaves, better let Salah leave too. The eyebrows moved then. They give you away. The eyebrows moved. I don't know whether you saw that.
I don't really know what he means.
Right. We're better letting Salah leave if Trent leaves, is what he's saying. Or she. I don't know what.
Why?
The eyebrows again. Don't give me the eyebrows. It wasn't me that. I mean, I said it, but it wasn't me that asked the question.
I don't get that line of thinking.
Okay, it's just a no from Josh.
Yeah.
Jay Nilo, sign Frimpong as Trent replacement to sign a backup and use Bradley as first choice. We kind of already talked about that. How and where do we replace Trent's numbers and get them into the rest of the team? The numbers things we've kind of touched on, but I think it's a much easier proposition now than it is a few years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think you need to overthink it. I really don't. I think with Trent, just go and buy a boss right back. Just go and buy the best right back you can find. Don't worry about replacing specifically his chance creation or his crosses or whatever. Just go and buy the best right back you can, and then you kind of just work the team out moving forward based on the strengths and weaknesses of the players that you've got. As I said, I think Frimpong would be a really interesting tactical story, because he is one who vaguely fits the mould of a right back. I'm not sure personally, but even if you do sign him as your right back, you can't play him like he's right. You need to use him based on what he's good at, and it's not like traditionally sitting behind the ball, feeding passes into the midfield or feeding Salah.
It's getting him on his bike, innit?
Yeah, it's absolutely making him run, and that would, I mean, to an extent, he'd get in Salah's way. So if we went to Frimpong, I'd be very intrigued to see what on earth the plan is, even though he's really good.
Okay, a couple more questions here before we go over to Plus. Connor Flynn, do you think Trent is leaving because of the manager?
No, I think he would have liked. No, that sounds a bit strong. I think he maybe anticipated Liverpool dropping off this season, because initially part of the convo was like, I want to see how Liverpool get on. I want to see Liverpool post Jurgen.
Liverpool with Slot have kind of called this bluff a bit here.
Yeah. I think he might have anticipated Liverpool falling off a little bit, and then he might have been able to use that as like, I'm here to win, I'm going to actually get off. But Slot has been so good, and Liverpool are going to win the Premier League, that he can't use that line anymore. So, no, I don't think it has anything to do with Slot. I think it's an individual thing. I think it's purely his own mind. I think he just wants to go abroad and that, and experience a different league, a different language, a different culture, win different trophies, play with different teammates. The biggest club in the world, in my opinion, Real Madrid. So, to be honest, I feel like I understand that side of things.
Okay. John Lee David Blackshaw, thank you very much for the super chat. It's been a hard week, but if I was given win the Premier League this season, I would have been on cloud nine. As for the players going or not, this has happened for generations, and Liverpool has gone on. I thank you for the super chat, John. Hope to see you towards the end of the season, actually, mate. Hopefully we'll announce something soon. What I would say to this is something that I said almost verbatim yesterday. The reason this hurt me so much is that everybody leaves your football club. Owners leave your football club, players leave your football club, managers leave your football club, and all that's left behind is fans. And Trent's one of them.
Yeah.
And that's why he's not supposed to leave.
Yeah, it's a good line, that.
So, I don't know whether you asked the question, but I've tried to answer it. Nissanth Nagaraju, thank you for the super chat. Should we buy Cherky to replace Trent's capacity to unlock defences? Josh, what do you think?
I would say no. I think Cherky is extremely technical and very exciting as a talent. But I mean, the rumours I've heard is that he's a problem child type thing. He's a bit of a, attitude issues and things like that. He can be a bit of a bad egg, I think is what I've heard. So I wouldn't risk upsetting the apple cart. But I think
9 assists, 6 goals in 16 starts and 22 total appearances in league.
How old is he now?
22. Oh no, hang on, I've read that wrong. Sorry. He's 21. He'll be 22 at the start of next season.
Right.
And Ryan Bolt says Cherky's overweight.
Well, yeah, that goes back to what I just mentioned, I suppose. But I mean, he's incredibly gifted, though. He's very two-footed and that, and creative and stuff. And he's kind of like a Eden Hazard regen. He reminds me a lot of Hazard in the things that he does and what he's good at and stuff. But I think the creation that you lose from Trent, I think you can find that through the players we've already got, to be honest. But I think we'll replace that anyway through other players. I don't think you need to necessarily buy a 10 or if that's the suggestion. I'm not sure that's what the person's getting at, but no, is the answer.
Okay. So we're going to go over to Redmen Plus shortly. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of what we're going to be answering. And I think this is a brilliant question. It really got me thinking because I hadn't thought about this. But it was, does this open the door for Harvey to step in as the creative force going forward? And I think there's subtleties to the answer to this, and I can't wait to discuss that. We've got loads of questions, including name one shock departure and one shock arrival this summer, and do you like mayo on chips? So we're going to be going over to Redmen Plus within the next sort of 5 to 10 minutes, going live on there. As I say, you can use the code DEEP, DEEP, to get 50% off a yearly captain subscription. Redmenplus.com. The code expires on 31st of March. See you over there. Thank you so much for watching. Josh, as always, thank you. Don't forget to go and check out Josh's Substack. It is absolutely excellent. Just Google Distance Covered Substack and you will find it. Thanks very much, and we'll see you soon. Ta-ra.